Welcome back to Crash Bandicoot. We're gonna get right into things. Oh wait, maybe I was thinking of a later video. Anyway, this is something I never knew as a kid. It works in the original too, that you can rotate the map using the circle and square or X and B buttons. I never knew that growing up. I only discovered it when I was recording for this LP.
The lessons we learn as adults.
Yeah. I mentioned before that it's all about camera experimentation in the first Crash. So this is kind of an isometric, not quite isometric, but top-down view.
Huh.
The level layout in this is also very much inspired by 2D action games. And I didn't mention this before in the first video, but the game is set in a series of 3 islands southeast of Australia, which do not exist. There aren't even any islands there, let alone these ones. Once again, we cannot get the clear gem yet, so we're going to avoid most of the boxes. Those fish items, if you stand underneath, or the fish enemies, if you stand underneath them, you'll take damage and you can just spin attack them away. These lily pads, obviously temporary platforms. There are 2 different types of these Venus flytrap things. So you have to pay attention to the color of their, I don't know, skin, I guess, on the inside. It was actually different in the original. They had the same basic model, but their leaves were different colors.
Looks a little Frogger to me.
And keep in mind that this was before the DualShock as well, so...
Oh.
You were navigating these with the directional pads, which is how I played all 3 games growing up.
Oh. This is one of those games that didn't even support the DualShock, did it?
It was in 1996. I think it was before the DualShock was even introduced. The second game has DualShock support though, but I didn't have a DualShock controller. I had a regular PS1 controller. So I played all 3 games this way.
I feel your pain.
And it wasn't too bad. And now we have our first boss fight. This is against Papua Papu, one of the chieftains of the Wampa Islands. And he is extremely difficult. Easily the hardest boss of the entire franchise. So this is his basic attack pattern. He just does a little dance. You can jump on his chair if you want to get some extra height, and you jump on his head. Boss fights in Crash Bandicoot are very Donkey Kong Country-esque, again, making that comparison, where you basically just have to sit around and wait until they're vulnerable and then hit them. Thankfully, they're not quite as long as the DKC bosses, which were like 30-45 seconds before hits. So when it comes to the bosses, I'm actually going to be showing the PS1 versions as well, just because there are a few differences, and also just to show off what the original game looked like.
$1996, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, he actually has more hit points in the Sane Trilogy than he did originally. That was something they were trying to hype up, is like, oh, this collection's gonna be more difficult than the original. We gave this piss-easy boss 2 extra points. Also, his scream is different at the end there. But, what's this junction point that wasn't in the original? This is Crash's sister, Coco Bandicoot. She was not introduced until the second game, but one of the features they added to the Sane Trilogy is the ability to swap between Crash and Coco when playing any of the 3 games. Although there are certain levels where you're forced to play as one or the other. We will not be gathering any moss in this level. So this is Coco. She's got her laptop and her cell phone with her constantly. She's basically the Tails to Crash's Sonic. There's no gameplay difference between them, but just in terms of their personalities.
So all the same moves, just an opportunity to play as the female Bandicoot.
Yeah. Coco was actually introduced because there were some bosses at Sony of Japan, specifically, who objected to how sexy Tana was. And so they had to create a new female character, and that's how we got Coco. To think that Japan would object to something for being too sexy. How times have changed.
It's Japan, you can't be overtly sexy. You have to be like sly sexy. And she definitely wasn't sly sexy.
No. They actually toned down her design in the Sane Trilogy compared to how she used to look. We'll be seeing that, oh, damn it. Yeah, she also has a slightly different death animation there. She throws her laptop into the air. Yeah, we'll be seeing the original design for Tana. And, that guy looks familiar. I should avoid his token head. Yeah, just like most of the previous levels, we cannot get the clear gem yet. There sure are a lot of boxes we left behind. Oh no, look out, Coco!
Oh. I don't know if that animation was meant to be as suggestive as it was, but guys, you may have wanted to rethink that.
I think it was just meant to be funny. I like that little glare she gives the player afterward. That was pretty funny.
You done screwed up.
You actually get an achievement for knocking out one of the characters in the results screen. It's called The Box That Broke the Bandicoot's Back. And here's another staple of the Crash franchise coming up. You get to ride animals. This one's pretty limited, though, because it's just the first game. They're still experimenting. So this is on rails. You can't move forward or boost forward or anything. And you just have to break all the boxes on your way here. The controls feel a little tighter than they were in the Sane Trilogy for this section. I remember having a lot of difficulty with this as a kid. For reasons that we'll get into later, because it actually relates to those tokens that we kept collecting. Or not collecting. But yeah, you can't actually defeat any enemies here. You just gotta run past them.
See, this reminds me of that rocket level from Earthworm Jim.
I haven't played Earthworm Jim actually, but weren't there a couple of auto-scroller sections in that?
Yeah, there's one between every level where you have to race another character to get to the next level. The difficulty is insane in some of the parts of.
You mean insane?
It's insane. It's all insane.
Yeah, there are a lot of N and EN puns in this game. You may have seen a couple of those in the franchise, actually. You may have seen a couple of those earlier on. Our boss, the main bad boss guy, is Dr. Neocortex. The neocortex, of course, being the section of the brain that controls things like memory, sensory inputs, and like language skills. And you'll never believe this, but we cannot get the clear gem in Native Fortress yet. What a shocker.
Oh, man. I thought they were going to let us have one.
They really force you to backtrack. In fact, speaking about those N and EN puns, this island is called Insanity Island. And which is why we started on Insanity Beach. Yeah, we're going to find out what those tokens do. This level in particular is kind of infamous, both in the original and in the Sane Trilogy, but there are some, without going into too much detail, because I'm going to talk about that later, there are some changes in the physics and the way that Crash handles that makes some of these levels, especially this one, more difficult than they were in the original for bad reasons. Although for the most part, The changes that were made between the original and the Sane Trilogy were for the better. For example, you could actually see how many boxes you've broken in a level, which is something you couldn't do in the original. That was introduced in Crash 3, I think. I guess I might as well show off what happens when you take damage.
Okay, now we're getting into the Donkey Kong Country-esque difficulty levels here.
Yeah, this is a good example of the differences in the controls. That in the original, it was a bit easier to grab those boxes underneath the gray box going into the TNT. So if you collect all 3 of these Tana tokens, it takes you to a special bonus room. This is another change from the original. All these boxes all these bonus levels are 2D, and they get progressively more difficult as the game goes on. Yoink. So here's the big change. First of all, there's no platform. You just have to trust that you get all 3. And in the bonus rounds, well, we'll see in a minute here. Yeah, it's a bit difficult going back to the original. So there's Tana's old design.
Ugh.
This is the only way that you can save your game in the original. Actually, there are 2 ways. The other way is to get a clear gem, of which there are, of course, a limited amount. And it also supports a password system, because in 1996, most people didn't have memory cards.
They were a touch spendy.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're very limited in how you can save your game in the original. And you only get 1 chance in the original to complete that save point. Otherwise, you have to restart the level.
That's brutal, is what that is.
It is, and I'm very glad they changed that. There's an autosave, and you can save whenever and save in the hub. It's really good. The other change that they made, which actually makes it more difficult, is that in the original game, you did not have to complete the bonus rounds in order to get the clear box gem. And in the Sane Trilogy, you absolutely have to complete all the bonus rounds. Although, in order to compensate for that, they made it so that you can actually have, multiple tries at the bonus round, and it actually won't. It will not take up a life if you die in a bonus round. Believe it or not, this is actually the last level on this island. The pacing, as I mentioned before, is very strange. It doesn't end with a boss. This is kind of the boss fight at the end.
Yeah, one very long, very difficult platforming segment.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. The platforming has always been very brutal and uncompromising, like there. I was so close.
Yeah.
I was so close to getting a clean run of this level, and then off screen I died like 5 more times.
Yeah, up until now, the levels have been kind of short, punchy little affairs that I don't want to say don't overstay their welcome, but they're not excessively long,
At this point, they're not that long. That'll become a problem in later games. And even though I couldn't get, the box gem, I fell for my hubris trying to get that extra life.
Which may be handy later.
Yeah, this is just as difficult in the original. Also, you get that sort of hand-wiping animation if you get to the end of the level in the original and then die, or if you've died on your way. It's a way of indicating whether or not you actually got the gem. And so we've moved on from Insanity Island, and Wumpa Island, I believe, is the next one. And we'll start from there next video. And in the meantime, here are some extra death animations and other stuff as well. So first off, there are several unique death animations when you're riding the hog. Was that foot twitch really necessary? Also, back in Data Fortress, you may notice there's something weird over there. You can actually jump into the background and skip this whole section. That is absolutely intentional, and it was completely in the original as well. Coco also has some unique death animations. She has her own variant on the angel thing, which I think I mentioned that before, but it's the angel death animation started in Crash 2. I guess I didn't want to make a unique one. Oh, this is also a special death animation tied to one of her idol animations. Yeah, that was timely back in 2017. Also, you can abuse the death animation here to save like a second or two in speedruns by boosting into the exit there. But yeah, that death animation with Coco, it's very specific. Reference to, if you remember, the Samsung Galaxy Note 7s that kept exploding.
Oh my god.
That was all the rage in 2016. Although...
So does it only trigger if she's standing idle for too long?
No. Well, yeah, that is an idle animation. One of several that she has. But the unique thing about that is that when her phone shorts circuit and it sets fire, it's treated as an explosive and it can blow up any explosive boxes nearby.
Oh,
it's a pretty neat detail.
Oh yeah.
And the game's 2017 references are very much in keeping with the spirit of the games, which are, filled with little nods to 90s fads and everything else. So it's not out of character to make that kind of joke.
Sure. So, I mean, hello, texting.
Yeah. She takes a selfie and a couple other idle animations, and her laptop is, very cute and pink and everything. Again, Coco's not in this game. We'll see more of her in Crash 2. But until then, we have to deal with Tana.